Story 1. The Ferryman. I heard that you are the ferryman, I said to the man in the dirty overcoat tucked into a corner of the grimy bar where he nursed a glass of beer. You have the wrong guy. I'm just out for a beer before the wife gets back from third shift. He rasped, ashing his cigarette into the dish beside his drink. No, I'm sure I have the right guy. Miyamoto told me about you. He said to look for the ghost in a ratty coat. That's you. I pointed my finger at him. He was pale, but that could have been chalked up to the neon of the bar lights. However, I knew better. Skippers grew paler the more they jumped. The technical term for his complexion was time drag. If a skipper jumped enough, he became as translucent as a ghost, his bones and organs visible to the naked eye. The ferryman wasn't quite there yet. He still had most of his features, but the shadow of his grinning skull could be seen when the light hit his face. I sat down next to him and ordered another round for him, and the same for myself. His protest died as the bartender set the drinks down. Well, what is it that you want? He said, taking a long drag off his cigarette and putting it out in the ashtray. You're the ferryman. I have a destination in mind, I said, taking a sip of the beer. I was surprised to find that it was light, crisp, and tasted like oranges and wheat, something better than the cheap light beer the other patrons had ordered. Well, where do you want to go? The Titanic, Katrina. I hear that the Ardennes is beautiful once the smoke clears. I can only jump about 200 years back, but the farther you want to go, the more it will cost, he said, eyes darting around to see who was listening to our conversation. The bartender was occupied with a couple who arrived separately and thought that everyone couldn't tell that they were married. The signs were obvious, but the bartender was chasing a fat tip. The other people in the bar couldn't be bothered to look up from their drinks to notice either. I was thinking something off-road, I said, leaning closer, conspiratorially. The ferryman chuckled and leaned in to match me. You, like everyone else, knows that jumping can only be done to permitted times and locations as outlined in the Temporal Protection Act. We can only go to disasters, places where history cannot be changed. Why don't you hire one of those travel services if you want to see the past so badly? I don't want to go to a disaster or a permitted location. I want to go to a specific location, and Miyamoto says you're the guy who can make that happen, I snarled, sharpness creeping into my voice. Look, I've seen your type before. I don't do revenge jumps. I don't care who slept with your wife or what stock you did or didn't invest in. Going back won't change how stupid you are. If it wasn't this mistake, it would be a different one, and you'll have wasted your money and, more importantly, my time. The ferryman made a move to get up, but I grabbed his arm. You don't understand. I know I can't change anything. I just want to see her one more time. I don't want to forget her voice, I said, desperation filling my voice to the brim. He finally took a good look at me and my rumpled clothes. I was still wearing the suit from my wife's funeral. Look, call me Dennis. I won't take you back, but I can do something that is a bit of a grey area. You're going to have to pay the full fare, though. He pushed a business card across the table. Half now and half after. Wire the money to this account. I flipped the card over and nearly choked on the number of zeros. You wanted to jump off the books. You pay off-roading prices. I pulled my phone out and wired the first half of the payment to him. His phone buzzed and he stood, downing the rest of his beer. Well, no time like the present. He started toward the door, and I quickly followed. The front door led into a gravel parking lot bathed in red neon. The ferryman pulled another cigarette from his coat and lit it. Most people don't understand time travel. They think it's all about wormholes or some other sci-fi shit. I'd give you the whole time is a river speech, but it isn't. That's just the easiest way to explain it. People forget that someone must take them, he said, taking a long drag of his cigarette. I've seen other jumpers take busloads of people. Hell, my wife and I went and saw the Challenger explosion for our honeymoon, I said before I remembered. Nicole had loved space and history, and the space race was one of her favorite topics. It was one of her favorite subjects to teach. The yawning pit that she used to fill widened just a bit more, and I stopped walking. I could feel myself at the edge of that pit, staring into its yawning maw. Reminisce later. I get paid by the trip, not by the hour. The reason that you can take a busload of people to the 60s is because there is a legion of jumpers working for that agency, each doing their part to hold the door open. Otherwise, the weight would crush each of those tourists and scatter what is, was, and eventually will be their atoms across history. Time doesn't like to be fucked with, and it takes a lot of energy to do so. The more significant the event, the more energy required. If you can find a weak point, it makes it easier, but those are few and far between, he said as we circled to the back of the bar. He rolled the sleeves of his coat up as he began feeling around the air with his eyes closed. His hands opened and closed until he grasped something solid. It looked like he grabbed the edge of something invisible floating in the air. He heaved like he was opening a heavy door and peeled the air back. Reality curved like he was rolling up the corner of a rug that had been covering up television static. This is a weak spot that I will turn into a window. We aren't going back in time, but you can see an event transpire. Give me your hand and focus on where and when you want to observe. He reached down and grabbed my wrist. He pushed my hand towards the static, and I flinched, thinking about time reasserting itself and turning my hand into ground beef. Dennis just pushed my hand against the static. It felt cool and smooth like a television screen. I focused on my last memory of Nicole, and the static flickered until a stable picture formed. I saw the intersection that Nicole had been crossing. She had been coming home from the grocery store and had her arms full while she spoke to me over the phone. She stood frozen, paused just before tragedy. "Now, I can hold this image and we can watch the next couple of minutes," he said as he braced against the peeled back flap of reality. The sound of idling cars and the smell of grass and sun-baked pavement wafted from the image. "I love you too, honey." Nicole laughed as the light changed in the intersection. The green signal to walk flashed and she began to cross the street. Halfway across, the paper bag in her arm broke. A soup can hit the ground, rolling away, and my stomach dropped. She lunged for the soup can as the sound of screeching tires filled my ears. I had heard this all before, through the tiny microphone of her phone, but seeing it in HD felt like a gut punch. A car had run the red light and didn't see her because she had ducked down going after the soup can. She died on impact. I felt the pit inside me widening, the ground under me slowly giving way. Why not jump in? I grabbed a chunk of concrete from the ground. "What are you doing?" Dennis said, his eyes wide in panic. I felt the cool smoothness of the barrier preventing me from touching the static. Just like a television, I thought. I swung the chunk of concrete at the screen, leaving a crack where it struck. Cracks began spiderwebbing across the opening until the pressure of the static blew the barrier outward, throwing Dennis and me back into the side of a dumpster, crystal shards shredding my thin jacket and slacks. The picture warped and returned to static, the points of light swirling as the sound of the world's biggest and most pissed-off blender on its maximum settings emanated from the hole. Gravity began to shift as I felt a tug towards the opening. I stood and reached for Dennis, who was groaning as blood ran in rivulets down his face. He had cuts and scrapes all along his body and face. He felt the pull and stood with a start. The roar coming from the hole got louder as the pull grew stronger. "You dumbass!" he shouted to be heard over the cacophony. "You could have killed both of us. I'm going to close this before we both are thrown in jail, or reality becomes a fucking smoothie. You probably set off every temporal sensor that this state has." He reached for the flap of reality that he had pulled away, fighting against the gravitational pull of the hole. I stood and ran to stop him. I needed to get in there. If I could get in there in that moment, I could stop Nicole from dying. I scooped a fist-sized shard of crystal out of the gravel. Dennis was focused on closing the opening and did not see me. I slid the shard of crystal into his back. He shoved me backwards with a grunt. He made a gasping, choking sound like he couldn't quite catch his breath. The shard was sticking out of his back, and he reached around trying to pull it out, but couldn't quite get a grip on the shard. He wheezed, blood spraying from his lips. "This hole is going to get stronger as time reasserts itself. You can't put a band-aid on this. This isn't drywall you can just patch. You fucked around with time and now it's going to hit back." "What's going to happen?" I said. "You created an anomaly. It won't stop until it eats you and erases you from existence. You can't hurt time if you never existed," he said, slumping against the metal dumpster as his eyes drooped. I had to fix this. I approached the opening and started to slide as I was sucked in. The last thing I saw was the pool of blood forming around Dennis as his body relaxed against the dumpster. The swirling light that I had thought of as television static surrounded me as I fell. I fell for only a moment before hot, sun-baked pavement slammed into me. I looked up and could see Nicole waiting to cross the intersection. I stood to my feet, relief washing over me. I could finally fix this. She laughed as she held her phone up to her ear. "I love you too, honey." The light of the intersection changed, and she started to cross. Halfway across the intersection, The paper bag in her arm ripped and I lunged for the soup can. The sound of screeching tires filled my ears as I heard Nicole gasp. I laid crumpled on the pavement as the life drained out of me. I felt sun-baked pavement slam into me. I looked up and saw Nicole waiting to cross the intersection. I saw her cross the intersection and halfway across the paper bag ripped. The can of soup rolled away after hitting the pavement and I lunged. The screeching of tires filled my ears as I felt the impact of the car hitting me. I crumpled to the pavement, the life draining out of me. I felt sun-baked pavement slam into me. I looked up and could see Nicole waiting to cross the intersection. I stood up and it dawned on me. I could save Nicole. I could save her for eternity. I would just have to take her place. Every time. I lunged for the soup can as it rolled away. The sound of tires filling my ears. Story 2. The circle we keep. In Crawford, the streets emptied as night fell. 3 figures traversed through town, moving between the shadows. Their dark skin blended with the moonlight as each carried the body bag over their heads. It was large and lumpy, though in the right light, it appeared to be an ordinary sack. Jamie, the youngest, staggered as it felt like bricks crashing down on him. He dropped to the ground with a thud when the bag's feet pressed into his shoulder. Curses! I knew crossing Crawford was a bad idea. Shaneka sighed and helped him to his feet. Come on, only a few more minutes till we reach the prayer circle. He swatted her hand away. Easy for you to say. You only have to carry the body's stomach. It took him a while to steady himself. He stammered, whispering, Did you see them down there? I swear they looked at us. They know what we're going to do with the body. Quit your whining. I don't know why Ania let you tag along. You're too high-strung. I'm trying not to get us caught. Their bickering died when Ania looked over her shoulder. She scanned for lingering townies. Folks of the same skin won't tell on one another. Besides, they're smart enough not to stop us. As long as you have the candles and Jamie has the camera, there's no need to worry. Am I right? They both nodded warily. Good, let's move along now. Let's move along. Jamie returned to carrying the bag's end without complaint. Fireflies illuminated the night sky. The bag still loomed over his head, but he reminded himself of his purpose. Just get the body to the circle and you'll never have to do this again. It's all for a good cause. His eyes were shut until Shaneka nudged him, telling him to stop being a fool. Just as they approached Crawford's gates, a bulky man stepped in front of them. Sporting a sleek black suit and campaign hat, he took a long drag of his cigar. A badge gleamed on his chest. Crawford Country Cop. I haven't seen you all around. His flashlight beamed on the 3. Where y'all headed? Shaneka wore her best smile. We're headed to... I wasn't addressing you. The cop blew smoke at Jamie. You there, where y'all headed? Sweat dripped down his face as he scrambled for an answer. Just heading home, sir. That's quite a large sack y'all have. Must be finishing chores. He flicked the light between the bag and the family. Yes, sir. Really? What kind of chores y'all doing? He dropped the cigar butt at the boy's feet, causing him to flinch. Cleaning, sir. This bag is for... Look at me when I'm speaking to you, boy. This bag is for supplies. The cop's breath reeked of burnt ash. It invaded Jamie's lungs as he faced him. After a few moments, the cop leaned back and grounded another cigar butt into the dirt. You must think you're pulling my leg. No. Don't talk back, boy. He rested his hand on his gun pocket. I've been in the force for 30 years and I know sneaks when I see one, so if you don't tell me why you're carrying that dead body, we're gonna have some problems. There's no need, officer. We're just doing what you couldn't. He turned his head to Ania, annoyance flashing across his face. What did you say? Ania smiled and stepped in front of Jamie. What we're doing doesn't concern you. You don't care when folks get shot at your doorstep, so why do you care about some Negroes taking a stroll through town? Listen here, you. He reached for his gun, but the leader stopped his hand with a crumpled newspaper. She pressed it against his badge, pushing him backwards. No need to get violent. We'll be out of your hair soon, so here's something for your troubles. Use it as an ashtray, yeah? Snatching it from her, he flicked the paper open. The headline stared back at him. The cigar quivered between his teeth, his demeanor shaken. His eyes darted towards Ania with unease. Who are you people? Ania adjusted the body bag higher and stepped past. Have a good night, officer. For a long second, the cop stood frozen. Then he slowly lit another cigar. As he pressed it against the paper, he muttered, "Y'all don't belong here, don't forget that." As soon as they reached the outskirts, Jamie let out a long, winded breath. He coughed up the remaining smoke in his lungs. Thank the heavens. Shaneka shot him a glare, but she quietly exhaled as well. The kid lasted longer than I'd expect he would. Damn pigs. Anya looked straight ahead. I see the riverbank not too far now. If we keep chatting, the body will go cold. The riverbank reflected the rising moon, casting a comforting glow on the family. They were almost there. As they marched east, muddy footprints trailed behind them. If anyone followed, the river would hide their tracks. At least he hoped. A large, roughly drawn circle marked their destination. Ania dropped the body nearby and waited. A drawn-out breeze brushed against her face. It's time. As Shaneka placed 6 candles around the circle, Jamie stared at the body bag. All he had to do was drag it to the center. But why couldn't he move? The bag soiled the earth with its dark brown liquid. You're almost there. Do it for her. Jamie squeezed his eyes shut and dragged the body out. Dust rose in the air. He pinched his nose, preparing for the worst. As the plastic unraveled, the smell of rotting flesh pierced his nostrils, making him gag. Gritting his teeth, he pulled the body to the circle. A trail of blood streaked the ground. Tears filled his eyes as it squelched beneath his hands. Once it was centered, he placed the final touch, a family photo. Jamie hurried back to the family as they got into position. Ready? Anya began the chant. Oh, higher power, God of the living, we offer this sacred life to your hands. Rise, and let your favor fall where it may. Shaneka lit the candles. They erupted into a fiery wall, scorching the earth. Violent flames blocked the view of the body. They locked hands, praying for success. Minutes later, the fire subsided. Though the trees obscured the moonlight's glow, the body's pale skin was still visible. Soiled dirt covered his nakedness. He lay dormant, his expression almost peaceful. Then he took his first breath. He coughed blood and phlegm, struggling to rise. Burnt candles circled him. A long trail of blood lay nearby. 3 robed figures stood in front of him, watching. His legs buckled when he tried to stand. Running was pointless, so he faced them, eyes searching for answers. What am I doing here? What is this? No one spoke. That was until Ania stepped forward. As he backed away, she crouched, eyes piercing and unwavering. Don't you remember me? The man's voice trembled as her gaze fell upon him. You must be mistaken. I don't know any of you people. He tried to crawl towards the forest, but she gripped his leg, chuckling. Let me be clearer then. She leaned forward, staring straight into his soul. Don't you remember Naomi Waters? Upon the mention of her, color drained from his face. He thrashed around, praying for his legs to regain control. No! Let me go! You've got the wrong person! I don't know her! I don't... A crushing kick to his gut sent him heaving, bile spilling out of his mouth as he hunched over in pain. The leader stepped back, smirking tightly. Where are my manners? My name is Ania Waters. My auntie over there is Shaneka Waters. Shaneka's scowl cut through him, freezing his spine. He desperately crawled to Jamie. Help, please. Jamie turned away. And that boy? Jamie Waters? My cousin. Ania patted him on the back before facing the man again. He wallowed in his own vomit, letting out a guttural moan. It's okay. Breathe in and out for 5 seconds. She modeled, coaxing him. Reluctantly, he joined her until his body relaxed. My sister taught me that when we were young. Ania sat down beside him on the soil. I was always emotional over little things. One time there was a mean lightning storm. Cabinets banged up a commotion, driving me mad. Naomi searched all over the house to find me cooped up in the basement. Come out, Ania. It's just a little rain. She gleamed a soft smile. I was as stubborn as a mule, so she stayed with me all day, teaching me how to breathe. I didn't notice the storm passed until my ma found us giggling in the cobwebs. Naomi taught me how to toughen up, how to live. So when she asked me... She paused. When she asked me to go biking with her, I said yes. Her eyes closed as she gave her best recollection. It was 5 o'clock. The other kids headed home, but I begged her for one last race. From Crawford's Gate to the back. I was in the lead when the rock struck her tire. It took me 24 seconds to realize she fell. When I went back... I was there. I took her away. His voice shook as his memories flooded back. Ania, I'm so sorry. I wasn't done. Her tone sharpened. You took her from me. Do you want to know how I found out she died? The first penny I got I spent on a newspaper. Do you want to know what it said? Mangled body identified as Negro teen. My sister was front and center. They didn't even print her fucking name. And when I finally found your identity, you were already 6 feet under. Did your loved ones, Robert, surround you? Did they say you were a good man? He stammered, trying to find any words to make this better. I'm sure your sister was a great girl. If there's anything I can do, I'll do it. Bring me my baby sister back. Her eyes blazed. The others prepared for the next step. She breathed slowly, then spoke. You've done enough. We'll take care of it. Shaneka handed her a hammer. Jamie readied the camera. Wait, y'all don't have to do this. I'll turn myself in. You had that chance years ago. She tested the hammer's weight. Now, I'm going to beat you. Again, and again, and again, until no one can recognize your piggish face, just like Naomi. The man made a desperate break for it, but it was no use. Anya, please. Jamie loaded the film just in time. As the hammer struck, the camera caught the shot. Clack! Story 3. A death at Mardi Gras. The spirit of celebration has come to an end here in the city of New Orleans. A woman's body, drained of blood, was discovered on Père Antoine Alley, not far from the famous St. Louis Cathedral. According to police, the body was spotted around 5 a.m. this morning. We spoke to Antoine, the runner who was unfortunate to find the body while he was out training for an upcoming race. At first, I thought that she was sleeping, Antoine told us. She was slumped over on a bench in front of the church. It was dark, and I was hesitant to approach her for fear that she might be passed out drunk. As I got closer, I could tell by the streetlight above me that something wasn't quite right. Her skin looked pale, more pale than I have seen anyone, just like she was made of chalk. People in the city will no doubt be shaken up by this recent act of violence. Already there has been talk of something supernatural. As to all appearances, this seems to be something right out of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Police have declined to comment on the identity of the victim until the family can be notified, but they were able to give some information. We spoke to Chief Inspector Derek Jones, who gave us a little insight into the initial investigation. The first piece of the puzzle is to figure out how the victim lost all of their blood, Derek told us. There were no bodily fluids on the bench, or on the ground surrounding her, he added. We don't want to give too much information at this time to avoid widespread panic. I have consulted with the Center for Disease Control, and they have confirmed that this was not due to some type of infectious disease, he added. Mayor Pamela Horton will give a press conference later today. We don't want this tragic event to prevent tourists from visiting our city, she told us. No doubt police will increase patrol throughout the city, as we do not want any further instances of this insanity perpetrated. Both citizens and tourists are encouraged to take extra precautions when venturing out after dark. Police report. On the morning of Wednesday, February 24th, 2023, I was dispatched to Lafayette Cemetery. An individual by the name of Marie Thomas called 911 reporting that she had almost been abducted by a stranger with dark hair. His eyes was red, like they was being illuminated from the pit of hell, she told me. When I first saw him walking among the tombstones, he looked me straight in the eye and I felt like I was being hypnotized, she added. The longer I stared, the more my strength seemed to drain away from me. The stranger, she reported, got closer. Then he grabbed my head and forced it to the side, exposing my neck. His head bent close to me, getting so close that I could feel his breath on me. I felt the sensation of 2 tiny sharp pins being indented into my skin. I finally gathered the courage to scream, at which point he ran off. I haven't seen him since, she added shakily. A few minutes later, the ambulance arrived, and she went to the hospital to be checked for any wounds or bite marks. On my inspection, she looked relatively unharmed, just a bit disheveled. I did not see any bite marks or puncture wounds on her throat. No other evidence was found at the scene. We'll need to follow up with Inspector Davis to see if I can come up with any more leads on this case. Call-in report to Paranormal Investigations. On Thursday, February 25th, 2023, I received a call from a gentleman named Casper Jones. Casper wanted to talk to me about an experience he had the night before. As he was walking home on Rue Royale, Royal Street, he passed by an abandoned house that has not been lived in for the past 50 years. There was a light from a candle burning in the window, he told me. The wind was blowing and the rotted curtains was a-fluttering in the breeze. I stopped for a moment to look, just out of curiosity. In the background, I could hear an out-of-tune piano playing a slow, haunting melody. My instincts told me to turn and run, but I couldn't resist sneaking onto the porch and looking in another window. There I could see him, an old gentleman wearing a top hat. His skin was white like the new driven snow. He played those keys with long fingers, so long they seemed to stretch across the entire keyboard, he told me. Then he added, something else strange too. In the light of that candle, it looked like he had two sharp teeth protruding down over his bottom lip, looked as if his lips was stained with blood. After taking down his phone number and address, I, Marla Adams, president of the Paranormal Society, relayed this information to our investigation team. We do all sorts of things for people here in New Orleans. There are always people sighting ghosts and whatnot. We have even had a couple of requests for exorcisms that we have done in conjunction with the priests on staff at St. Louis Cathedral. No one, however, has ever called to report an encounter with a fleshly supernatural being. Werewolves, vampires, witches, that seems to be the sort of thing for fantasy novels. My assistant, Julia, did not seem surprised. We've waited a long time to encounter something like this, she told me. We plan to take a team to investigate the house and surrounding grounds tomorrow to see if we can get a clue as to where this creature rests. Also, hesitant to report our findings to the police, as they would find something of this nature too hard to believe.